teacher once crushed a kid's confidence with a single sentence. But what nobody expected was what that kid would do next. Imagine hearing, "You'll never be anybody." Now imagine believing it for years. Until one day something changes. He cried in the school bathroom, hiding in the last stall. No one saw, no one asked. But that day, he made a decision to prove them wrong. And here's the crazy part. It all started with 3 stupid little challenges he thought were just a joke. But each one pushed him further out of his comfort zone. And without realizing it, he was about to learn something no teacher ever explained. How to turn pain into purpose. How a kid who everyone counted out could one day become an example for millions. Stay till the end, because his last challenge will blow your mind. And maybe, just maybe, change the way you see yourself in the mirror from today on. James was the fastest kid in his neighborhood, ran like he was born for it. Soccer, no one could catch him. But the moment he opened a book, everything froze. Words became mazes. While his classmates seemed to get everything with ease, James just pretended to understand, just to avoid the embarrassment. He wasn't lazy. He really tried. But every test felt like another punch to his self-esteem. And the worst part wasn't the failing grade. It was the silence when he got home. That heavy feeling of being the disappointment, the forgotten student, the invisible kid. Have you ever felt that way? Like you're good at one thing, but the world only values what you're not? In James's case, nobody knew, but his dad was watching, quietly, and he had a plan. A secret one. A plan with 3 challenges that would change everything. While Matt was getting straight A's without even trying. James stayed up late, night after night, trying to understand just one page. He copied everything from the board, redid every exercise, rewatched lessons over and over again. But the results never changed. Low grades, disappointed faces, shame sitting heavy in his chest. Matt got praised, held up as the example. James got ignored, compared, dismissed. Not because he didn't try, but because nobody saw the effort, only the failure. And that's where the weight of comparison begins. When you start believing you have to be like someone else and forget who you are. Have you ever felt that? That no matter how hard you try, it'll never be enough? That same week, when everything seemed to fall apart, James's dad called him in for a talk, and what he said would change his son's life forever. He looked him in the eyes, calm but firm, and said, "You're going to face 3 challenges. Just 3. James laughed, thinking it was a joke. But his dad kept going. "If you complete them, you'll never doubt yourself again." He didn't explain much, just handed him a folded piece of paper with the first challenge handwritten on it. It looked simple, almost silly. But James had no idea. That first step would hurt more than any bad grade. Accept where you're strong and where you're not. It sounded easy, but it went against everything he'd been doing his whole life, trying to be like everyone else. Can you look at yourself honestly? No filters, no comparisons? That was the start of the change, and the second challenge would be even harder. The next week, something unexpected happened. James got invited to a local soccer tournament. He almost didn't go. His head was still full of comparisons and failures, but the moment he stepped onto the field, something shifted. The ball looked glued to his foot. Dribble, pass, goal, another one. The crowd started chanting his name, and right there, in the middle of it all, was Matt, sitting quietly on the sidelines, just watching. For the first time, James felt seen, not for trying to be good at everything, but for shining in what was truly his talent, his body, his instinct. I'm not stupid. I'm just not good at what everyone expects me to be. That line echoed in his head. What if you've been judging yourself too harshly, simply because you're trying to bloom in the wrong soil? That day ended with a different kind of smile. But the second challenge was about to put everything at risk. On paper, the second challenge sounded simple. Watch someone you truly admire. James picked Matt, the straight-A student, fluent in English, the kid who looked like he was born ready for success. But when James started to really observe him, he noticed something he'd never seen before. Matt studied with joy. He took notes with curiosity. He'd rewind videos, pause them, laugh at his own mistakes, then try again. It wasn't just intelligence, it was passion. He loved learning. And that's when it hit James. He didn't hate studying. He just never connected with what he was learning. It never made sense. Nobody ever showed him a way that did. Because when you love the process, discipline becomes the side effect. How many times have you forced yourself down a path without ever asking, does this even make sense for me? The second challenge wasn't about copying someone else. It was about seeing what lies behind the results. But the third nearly broke him. The third challenge was simple and brutal. Try doing it his way, just for one day. James agreed. He woke up early, sat at his desk, English books, math books, everything, forced himself to focus, ignored the fatigue, took notes, rewatched lessons, pushed harder and harder and harder. 2 hours later, his hands were shaking, his head pounding. He was drained and had learned nothing. He stood up, walked into the bathroom, and sat on the floor with his hands on his head. I tried to be like him. I gave it everything I had, and still, I failed. Frustration turned into quiet tears. The mirror showed a boy exhausted from fighting himself, a boy trying to win a game that wasn't his. Have you ever tried so hard to fit in that you forgot who you were? In that moment, James almost ripped the papers apart, but his dad, once again, showed up right on time. He didn't say a word at first, just walked in slowly and stood there in silence. Then he said, "Either study what you love or learn to love what you study. But running from it, that's what keeps you stuck." James didn't answer. He just looked at him, like someone who had finally heard their own feelings spoken out loud. It was never about being like Matt. It never was. It was about choosing a path that made sense and being honest about it. Son, there's no learning without truth. And your truth doesn't have to look like anyone else's. That wasn't advice. It was a key. Have you been trying to force yourself down a road that isn't yours? Maybe what's missing isn't effort, but clarity. From that day on, James moved at his own pace. And for the first time, learning stopped feeling like a war. 5 years went by. Today, James teaches in a way no one ever taught him. He explains through stories. He teaches with patience. And the most amazing part? He teaches English exactly the way he wished he could have learned it. He didn't become the best at everything, but he became the best at being himself. And that was enough to change his life. If there's one thing this story teaches, it's that your worth doesn't come from comparison. When you stop comparing yourself to others, that's when your real life begins. Which of the 3 challenges hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments below. And if you want to keep learning through real stories with life lessons, mindset shifts, and genuine inspiration, subscribe to the channel now. There are so many people out there who think they're not smart enough, but maybe they just need a new way to learn English and someone to remind them. You don't have to be like everyone else to be amazing.